Jack Miller adjusted his navy blue Earth uniform as he sat in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council. The massive chamber buzzed with the languages of over 200 alien species. Floating translation devices hovered near each delegation, ensuring everyone understood one another. This was his 15th council session as Earth's ambassador, and possibly his last. For 3 hours, he had listened to various species discuss trade routes, cultural exchanges, and scientific collaborations. None of them mentioned the attacks on human colonies in the Centauri sector. None of them seemed to care. When the Soraxian representative finished speaking about new regulations for antimatter transport, Jack raised his hand. The Council's rules gave each species the right to speak, but Earth had been mysteriously overlooked in recent sessions. This time, Jack stood before being recognized. Earth requests immediate attention to an urgent security matter, he said firmly. High Chancellor Zyrex, a tall, six-limbed Relaxian, with silver skin, sighed visibly. His large eyes blinked in what Jack had come to recognize as annoyance. Ambassador Miller, the Council has already reviewed Earth's complaints about border activities. We have found insufficient evidence of organized aggression. Jack tapped his data tablet. The large display screens around the chamber filled with images of destroyed human settlements, smoking ruins of homes, research facilities reduced to rubble, and sobering images of human casualties appeared before the gathered representatives. This happened 3 days ago at New Hope Colony. 47 dead, 18 missing. The attackers used Soraxian weapons and Soraxian ships. This is the 8th attack in 3 months. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Soraxian delegate, Krell, rose to his feet. His scaled face showed no emotion as he spoke. We categorically deny involvement. These could be mercenaries using outdated Soraxian equipment, perhaps even humans staging attacks to gain political advantage. Jack felt his face grow hot with anger, but years of diplomatic training kept his expression neutral. We have recovered ship fragments with active Soraxian military codes. Codes that were issued within the last stellar cycle. High Chancellor Zyrex raised a hand to quiet the growing chatter. Ambassador Miller, please submit this evidence for proper investigation. The Council will review it according to established protocols. We submitted identical evidence 6 weeks ago, Jack replied, and 2 months before that. The investigation has not even begun. These matters take time, Zyrex said dismissively. Now we must continue with our scheduled agenda. The Palaxian Confederation wishes to discuss the recent mineral rights legislation. Jack's communicator vibrated against his wrist. He glanced down at the message from Earth's President Samantha Green. They've made their choice. Execute Protocol Omega. Jack took a deep breath. This was it. The breaking point humanity had prepared for over the last decade. He stood again, this time pressing the emergency address button that cut off all other communications in the chamber. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. For 50 years, humanity has participated in good faith in this council. We have shared our technology, our resources, and our goodwill. In return, we have asked only for the same protections guaranteed to all member species. Jack looked around the room, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. As of this moment, by unanimous vote of Earth's Global Senate, humanity is withdrawing from all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council and its member species. We are recalling our representatives from every council world. All trade agreements are suspended. All technology sharing programs are terminated. He removed his official council badge and placed it on the table before him. Earth will defend its own borders and determine its own destiny from this point forward. Any vessels entering human space without specific authorization will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Without waiting for a response, Jack motioned to his team. All 23 human delegates stood in unison, leaving their badges and communication devices on the tables. As they walked toward the exit, the chamber erupted in shouted questions and demands. High Chancellor Zyrex called repeatedly for order. None of the humans looked back as the doors slid closed behind them. 2 weeks after Earth's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council, the first real signs of trouble began to appear across the galaxy. On the busy trading hub of Nexus Station, dock workers stood confused as the massive human cargo ship Northern Star arrived without its crew. Automated systems brought the vessel into port, unloaded its scheduled cargo, and then sealed itself. When station security tried to board the ship, they found all systems locked and a simple message repeating, "This vessel is returning to Earth space. Interference will be considered an act of aggression." Similar scenes played out at ports across Council space. Human ships completed their final deliveries and departed. Human crews gathered their belongings and booked passage back to Earth territories. By the end of the second week, not a single human-operated vessel remained in Council space. In the Council chambers, the mood had shifted from annoyance to concern. Council member Thrix, a bulky representative of the Palaxian Confederation, pounded his broad fist on the polished table. "This is completely unacceptable," he shouted, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. "The humans provide nearly half of our critical mineral resources. My world has only a 30-day supply of neocarbon. Without it, our atmospheric processors will fail." High Chancellor Zirex attempted to maintain order as more representatives voiced similar concerns. "We have initiated contact with the Mars colony," he said. "They maintain a separate government from Earth and may be willing to continue relations." The doors to the chamber opened, and a human woman walked in. Linda Rogers, the representative from the Mars colony, moved to the speaking platform. Unlike the Earth delegates who had worn their formal Navy uniforms, Linda wore the simple red jumpsuit that was common among Martian citizens. "Mars appreciates the Council's outreach," she began, her voice calm but firm. "However, while our government is independent from Earth's, we are still human. We stand with our Earth cousins in this matter." She placed a data crystal on the platform. "This contains the final shipments Mars will provide to fulfill our existing contracts. After that, we too are withdrawing from all Council agreements." High Chancellor Zyrex's silver skin darkened with emotion. "Ambassador Rogers, surely you understand the hardship this will cause for many worlds. Some of our member species depend entirely on human trade for survival." Linda nodded. "We understand completely. Just as human colonies in the Centauri sector depended on Council protection for their survival. Protection that never came. Across human space, a transformation was taking place. The massive shipyards orbiting Titan, once building luxury passenger vessels and science ships, now hummed with activity as they constructed vessels of a different kind. Military ships, with sleek lines and weapons systems that had never been shown to the Council, took shape at an astonishing rate. On Earth, President Samantha Green addressed the Global Senate. "For decades, we have hidden our true capabilities from the Council. We shared our basic technology freely while keeping our advanced developments secret, knowing this day might come. Now we will unveil the full extent of human innovation and determination." The Senate chamber erupted in applause. Decades of feeling like second-class citizens in a galaxy that took their resources but ignored their needs had built up a reservoir of resentment. Now that resentment was channeled into action. In his private residence, Jack Miller watched the president's speech. After returning from the Council, he had been given 2 weeks of rest before his next assignment. Tomorrow, he would take command of Earth's new diplomatic corps, one focused on building relationships with individual species rather than the Council as a whole. His communicator chimed with a message from Admiral Bill Hawkins. "Defense grid is fully operational. All colony worlds are now under complete protection. The Exaraxians tried to test our borders near Delta Colony. They retreated after their lead ship was disabled. No casualties on either side." Jack smiled. The Council had always underestimated humanity's resolve. They thought the withdrawal was a bluff or a temporary tantrum. They were wrong. Humanity had been preparing for independence for years, and now the galaxy would see what humans could really do when they stopped holding back. 1 month into the human withdrawal, The galactic economy began to crumble. The Meridian Exchange, the largest trading platform in Council space, recorded its worst collapse in 3 centuries. Species that had taken human trade for granted suddenly found themselves without essential goods and materials. On the Council homeworld, economists presented increasingly dire reports. Gradzik, the chief Council economist, displayed a series of charts on the main screen. His thin green fingers trembled slightly as he pointed to the downward trends. Without human participation, we project a 37% drop in galactic trade within 6 months, he explained. 17 member species have already applied for emergency aid as their local economies fail. The chamber, normally filled with the casual chatter of 200 species, was eerily quiet. Even the most powerful council members were beginning to understand the true cost of losing humanity. Can we not simply trade with other species for what the humans provided? Asked a representative from the Vexillian Empire, a relatively new council member. Gradzik shook his head. Earth controls 90% of the galaxy's neocarbon production. They hold exclusive mining rights to 65% of rare Earth elements. No other species can match their production capacity, and their colonies are strategically placed near the richest resource deposits. High Chancellor Zirex spoke up. What about their food exports? Surely we can replace those. Human agricultural methods are uniquely efficient, Gradzik replied. They produce 5 times more food per land unit than any other species. Without their exports, food prices have already risen by 40% on outer worlds. In private chambers after the meeting, the Council's inner circle debated sending a high-level delegation to Earth. Pride stood in the way. For 2,000 years, the Council had been the center of galactic politics. Species came to them, not the other way around. We cannot appear weak, insisted Elder Crix of the Dralaxian hierarchy. The humans must return on our terms. And if they don't? Asked a younger representative. No one answered. On Proxima Station, one of the oldest mixed colonies where humans and aliens had lived together for generations, the separation was more personal. Alan Peterson had owned a repair shop in the station's commercial district for 15 years. Half his customers were non-human. Today, he had to turn away Zekska, a Palaxian freighter captain whose navigation system needed urgent repairs. I'm sorry, Zex. Orders from Earth. Alan explained, genuine regret in his voice. We've been told to serve humans only until further notice. The large 4-armed Palaxian rumbled in frustration. My ship cannot run without navigation. My crew will be stranded here. Elen looked both ways, then lowered his voice. Come back after closing. I'll help you off the books. Just don't tell anyone. This scene repeated across human and mixed colonies throughout the galaxy. Official policy demanded complete separation, but many humans found it hard to abandon friends and colleagues of other species. On Earth, the economy was booming. Factories that had sent goods to Council worlds now produced for Earth and its colonies. Resources once exported were now used domestically. President Green's approval ratings reached historic highs as citizens celebrated their newfound independence. In her weekly address, the president spoke directly to the people. For too long, humanity gave more than it received. We share our innovations, our resources, and our labor. In return, we were treated as junior partners whose security concerns could be dismissed. Those days are over. What the president didn't mention was the cost. Luxury goods from exotic worlds were no longer available. Some medicines derived from alien biology were in short supply, but most humans felt these were small prices to pay for respect and security. The Council still believed that humans would return once they felt the economic pressure themselves. They didn't understand that humanity had been preparing for this moment for years. Underground factories had been producing essential goods. Secret farms using advanced methods had been established on colony worlds. While the galaxy suffered from humanity's absence, Earth and its colonies were largely self-sufficient. The Council had 1 month to adjust to a galaxy without humans. They were about to discover it was only the beginning. The Xeraxian raid fleet approached the human colony on Ta Ceti with confidence. Captain Drex smiled as he viewed the small settlement through his ship's sensors. His crew of 30 raiders had attacked human colonies before, always with easy success. The Council never responded to human complaints about these raids. It was almost too simple. Weapons ready. Drex asked his second-in-command. Yes, Captain. The humans have only basic defenses. Our scans show minimal security. Drex nodded. Begin the attack pattern. Remember, we need workers for the mines. Take as many alive as possible. The 5 Xeraxian ships spread out, beginning their usual formation. Suddenly, Drex's sensor officer shouted in alarm. Captain, multiple ships appearing from behind the moon. What? How many? Drex demanded. 7. No, 12 vessels. They're not in our database. Design unknown. Before Drex could respond, his communication system activated. A human woman appeared on the screen. She wore a crisp military uniform with insignia Drex didn't recognize. Attention, Xeraxian vessels. This is General Susan Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered restricted space without authorization. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Drex laughed. Humans don't have military ships in this sector. This is a trick. He ordered his ships to continue their attack. What happened next would change the galaxy's understanding of humanity forever. 3 sleek black vessels moved with impossible speed toward the Xeraxian ships. Weapons unlike anything seen in Council space fired with perfect accuracy. 2 Xeraxian ships exploded immediately. A third lost all power and drifted helplessly. Retreat, Drex screamed, but it was too late for most of his fleet. Only his ship managed to jump away, damaged but functional enough to carry news back to Xeraxian space. On the bridge of the EDS Defiance, General Rodriguez watched the lone Xeraxian ship escape. Should we pursue, General? Asked her weapons officer. Susan shook her head. No, let him go. Let him tell the others what happened here. She opened a communication channel. Command, this is General Rodriguez. The new defense systems work perfectly. 4 enemy ships neutralized. 1 escaped as planned. Back at Earth Command, Admiral Bill Hawkins received Susan's report with satisfaction. Send word to all human settlements. The defense network is fully operational. Similar scenes played out across human space. Raiders and pirates, who had targeted human colonies for years, suddenly found themselves facing advanced warships that appeared from nowhere. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer defenseless. At an emergency council session, Military Advisor Krell addressed the stunned representatives. Our intelligence was wrong, he admitted, his voice grave. The humans have been concealing their true military capacity. Our new estimates put their fleet strength at 5 times what we previously believed. High Chancellor Xerax looked troubled. How did we miss this? Where did they build these ships? Underground facilities on moons and asteroids, Krell explained. Advanced stealth technology that hid their activities from our sensors. They'd been preparing for years while making us believe they were militarily weak. A representative from the Andorian Federation stood up. My government received a message from Earth today. They offered us a private viewing of their defensive capabilities. What we saw was... He paused, searching for words. Remarkable. Technology decades beyond our current understanding. Murmurs spread through the chamber. For the first time, fear began to replace annoyance in discussions about humanity's withdrawal. The species that many had dismissed as stubborn and primitive was revealing itself to be far more advanced than anyone had suspected. On Earth, President Green addressed her Security Council. The demonstration phase is complete. All major powers have now witnessed our defensive capabilities. Defense Minister Frank Carter nodded. The message has been received. The Xeraxians have withdrawn all ships from our border areas. 3 other species have requested immediate peace treaties. And the Council? The President asked. Still debating their response. but they're scared now, as they should be. The president looked at the star map showing human territory. We never wanted war. We just wanted to be treated as equals. Sometimes you have to show strength to achieve peace. 3 months after Earth's withdrawal, the political landscape of the galaxy shifted dramatically. The Andorian Federation, known for its strict neutrality in council politics for over 5 centuries, made an announcement that sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles. The Andorian Federation has signed a bilateral defense agreement with Earth, declared Prime Minister Vexcor in a public broadcast. We recognize humanity's right to protect its borders and interests, and we find their terms of friendship fair and beneficial. Within days, 6 smaller species followed the Andorians' lead. Each announced separate agreements with Earth, trade deals, defense pacts, and cultural exchange programs that bypassed the Council entirely. In the Council chambers, Chair Vexor watched with growing alarm as nearly a third of the Council's members established independent relationships with humanity. This undermines the very foundation of our united governance, he protested during an emergency session. For 2,000 years, the Council has spoken as one voice in galactic affairs. These individual agreements threaten everything we have built. The Andorian representative stood to address the Council. Perhaps the Council should ask why so many species are willing to break with tradition. Earth offers fair terms and real protection. They treat small species as valued partners, not as afterthoughts. On Earth, Secretary of State Joseph Carter worked tirelessly, meeting with representatives from 20 non-Council species in a single week. His office in the Global Capitol building had become the busiest diplomatic hub in human space. Earth recognizes that not all galactic citizens agree with the Council's policies, he explained to a group of ambassadors from the Outer Rim worlds. We are open to individual relationships with those who respect our sovereignty and share our values of mutual benefit. The visitors nodded eagerly. Many represented worlds that had sought Council membership for decades but had been repeatedly denied. Will Earth form a rival council? Asked the ambassador from Proxima Minor, a small mining world. Carter smiled. We have no interest in building bureaucratic structures that mirror the Council's failures. Our agreements are between equals, tailored to each species' needs and capabilities. This approach resonated strongly with species tired of the Council's one-size-fits-all policies. By the end of the 3rd month, Earth had established formal relations with 27 non-Council worlds and 7 former Council members. The Council responded with Resolution 5591, formally forbidding member species from establishing independent treaties with Earth. The vote passed by a narrow margin, with many representatives abstaining. The day after the resolution passed, 7 species resigned their Council membership rather than comply. The Ardaxian Empire, a founding member of the Council, led the exodus. For 800 years, we have been loyal Council members, the Ardaxian Emperor stated. But we will not be told who we may speak with or who we may trade with. The Council has forgotten it exists to serve its members, not to rule them. The Galactic Order, stable for 2,000 years, was unraveling in a matter of months. In a secure meeting room deep within the Council headquarters, High Chancellor Xerex met with representatives from the 5 most powerful remaining Council species. We must find a way to bring humanity back, he said, his silver skin dull with stress. The alternative is the complete collapse of the Council system. Perhaps we should consider their demands, suggested the Palaxian delegate, whose world was suffering severe resource shortages without human trade. Never, hissed the Thoraxian representative. Give in now, and every minor species will make demands. The Council's authority must be absolute. The debate continued for hours with no resolution. Meanwhile, on the human colony world of New Eden, Governor Kate Russell presided over a ceremony welcoming the first Andorian settlers. Under the new agreements, citizens could freely relocate between allied worlds. Today marks the beginning of a new era of cooperation, she said as human and Andorian children released colorful birds into the air. Not based on Council mandates, but on mutual respect and shared goals. The galaxy was reorganizing itself around a new reality, one where humanity was no longer a junior partner to be taken for granted, but a major power whose friendship was worth pursuing. 6 months into the human withdrawal, the technological gap between Earth and the Council worlds became impossible to ignore. Human colonies thrived with new energy systems that didn't rely on the rare minerals controlled by Council species. Their ships traveled faster without using the standard jump gates that had been the only method of faster-than-light travel for thousands of years. On the human research station orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Nancy Wilson stood before a group of journalists from Earth and allied worlds. As head of Earth's Advanced Physics Division, she rarely gave interviews. Today was an exception. "We've been developing alternative technologies for decades," she explained, gesturing to the floating hologram behind her that showed a new type of engine. "We always knew we couldn't rely on Council-controlled resources forever." A reporter raised his hand. "Why keep these advances secret for so long?" Nancy's expression grew serious. Every time humanity shared a major breakthrough, the Council found ways to restrict its use or tax its implementation. The quantum communication system we developed 50 years ago was classified as a security risk by the Council, yet they use a version of it for their own military. The journalists took notes as Nancy led them through a tour of the facility. In one vast chamber, engineers tested a ship that could fold space without using the traditional jump gates that the Council had monopolized for millennia. "This is just the beginning," Nancy said. "What you're seeing now represents maybe 10% of what we've developed in secret." Across Council space, the impact of humanity's technological independence became increasingly clear. The Dralaxian Science Academy, once considered the galaxy's premier research institution, sent a formal request to Earth for information on human quantum communication systems. The response came within hours. "Humanity has shared freely for centuries," the official message read, "and watched as the Council weaponized our innovations against us. Those days are over. We will consider specific technology exchange only with species that have recognized our sovereignty through formal agreements." The Dralaxians, still loyal Council members, were denied access. The Andorians, who had signed the first bilateral agreement with Earth, received full technical specifications the same day. In Council territories, systems began to fail as human maintenance teams were no longer available. The Central Communications Network, designed and largely maintained by humans for over a century, experienced increasing outages. Equipment broke down without the specialized knowledge needed to repair it. On the mining world of Proxys IV, Governor Dan Mitchell supervised the installation of a new power system designed and built entirely with human technology. The small colony had previously depended on expensive imported energy cells from Council worlds. "This reactor will provide clean power for the entire settlement for 50 years, Mitchell explained to the excited colonists. "No more rationing. No more blackouts when Council shipments are delayed." A child raised her hand. "My dad says the aliens will try to steal our new technology. Is that true?" Mitchell smiled, but his eyes were serious. "They might try. That's why we have the new defense grid. Nobody takes from humans anymore." In a bold move that demonstrated humanity's new approach, Earth publicly released older versions of some technologies to all species, Council members or not. Medical equipment, agricultural systems, and water purification methods were shared freely. "These basic technologies should be available to all," President Green announced. "No species should suffer because of political disputes." This strategic generosity won humanity even more allies. Species that had been denied access to basic technology due to Council restrictions now looked to Earth as a more benevolent power. In the Council chambers, the technological revelations caused heated debates. Some representatives called for immediate reconciliation with humanity at any cost. Others insisted that technological independence was impossible, and that the humans would eventually return when their systems inevitably failed. High Chancellor Zirex listened to both sides with growing concern. The intelligence reports on his desk told a different story. Human technology wasn't failing. It was advancing at a pace that threatened to leave the Council centuries behind. "We may have made a terrible miscalculation," he confided to his closest advisors. "We treated them as junior partners when they were quietly becoming our superiors." 8 months after the withdrawal, the Galactic Council formally requested Earth's return to diplomatic relations. The economic damage, technological setbacks, and political fracturing had finally forced the proud Council to bend. In a historic session, broadcast across the galaxy, High Chancellor Xerex addressed humanity directly. His silver skin gleamed under the chamber lights as he chose his words carefully. "The Galactic Council recognizes the legitimacy of Earth's grievances and extends an invitation to rejoin our community of species," he said, his voice solemn. "We propose a special committee to address human security concerns and a review of trade agreements to ensure fairness." The Council members watched the large communication screen, expecting an immediate response from Earth's government. Instead, the screen remained blank for several minutes. Then, it flickered to life, showing not President Green or any official representative, but a montage of ordinary humans from across Earth and its colonies. A farmer in Nebraska spoke first. "We tried the Council way for 50 years. Why go back?" A teacher from the Mars colony appeared next. "The Council ignored our pleas when our people were dying. Why should we trust them now?" One by one, hundreds of ordinary citizens voiced their opinions. Some spoke angrily about past injustices. Others calmly explained why independence was working better. The message was overwhelmingly clear. Earth's population had no interest in returning to the old relationship. After 20 minutes of these testimonials, the screen finally showed President Green sitting in her office, the Earth flag visible behind her. "As you can see, High Chancellor, Earth's response comes not from its government, but from its people. The answer is no." Her tone was polite but firm. "Humanity will consider returning to diplomatic relations only under a new framework that guarantees our security and respects our sovereignty. The old Council structure is no longer acceptable to us." She leaned forward. "If the Council is truly interested in reform, we welcome the opportunity to discuss what a new galactic order might look like. But we will not simply return to the table as if nothing happened." When the transmission ended, the Council erupted in debate. For the first time in its 3,000-year history, the Council faced the prospect of fundamental reform, or dissolution. On Earth, citizens celebrated President Green's response. Public squares filled with people waving flags and singing. The 8 months of independence had been challenging but rewarding. New industries had emerged. Colony worlds were flourishing without Council restrictions. Most importantly, no human settlements had suffered attacks since the new defense network activated. In his apartment overlooking New York City, former Ambassador Jack Miller watched the celebrations from his window. His communicator chimed with a message from President Green. "The Council is forming a reform committee. We need you to lead our negotiation team." Jack smiled. This was what he had hoped for all along, not just withdrawal, but leverage for real change. He typed his response. "I accept the position. When do we start?" Across the galaxy, the Council's wavering response to humanity's condition created new tensions. The species that had already formed alliances with Earth pushed for Council reform. The traditionalists resisted any change to the power structure that had benefited them for millennia. On the Andorian homeworld, Prime Minister Vexcor addressed his planet's governing body. "The future lies with Earth and its allies. The Council must adapt or become irrelevant." In the Council's private chambers, High Chancellor Xerex faced the hardest decision of his 500-year life. Reform would diminish the Council's power. Refusal might destroy it entirely. "We have no choice," he finally told his inner circle. "We must open reform negotiations with Earth." His chief advisor looked troubled. "And if their demands are too extreme?" Xerex gazed out at the stars visible through the chamber window. "Then we must accept that the galaxy has changed. Perhaps it is time for something new to rise from what we built. 1 year after Earth's dramatic exit, a new galactic structure began to emerge from months of intense negotiations. On the neutral world of New Terra, representatives from 87 species gathered for the signing of a historic document. The Treaty of New Terra would establish the Interstellar Cooperative, a loose alliance of equals replacing the hierarchical council system that had ruled for thousands of years. Earth signed as a founding member, alongside former council species and many who had never been admitted to the old order. The Grand Hall was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, a true reflection of the galaxy's diversity. Ambassador Paul Williams represented humanity at the signing ceremony. His journey from junior diplomat to Earth's most important representative reflected humanity's rise in galactic affairs. "Today marks the beginning of a true partnership among the stars," he said, addressing the gathered delegates. "No species stands above others, and none shall be ignored when they seek justice." The core principles of the new cooperative were simple but revolutionary: equal voting rights for all member species regardless of size or power, mutual defense obligations that required collective response to aggression, and open technology sharing with fair compensation for innovations. Most significantly, the treaty allowed for independent relationships between members. Unlike the Council, which demanded exclusive loyalty, the cooperative permitted bilateral agreements for specific needs. The former Council worlds had split into 3 factions after the negotiations. 25 species, including the Andorians and Palaxians, joined the cooperative as founding members. 31 formed a diminished version of the old Council, clinging to tradition under High Chancellor Xyrex's leadership. The remaining 14 chose independence, aligning with neither group. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy had multiple centers of power and influence. Experts predicted competition, but also innovation as the different systems sought to prove their superiority. On Earth, citizens celebrated what many called their second Independence Day. The economic hardships of the withdrawal had been real. Luxury goods were still scarce, and some medical treatments derived from alien biology remained in short supply. But the new arrangements promised greater prosperity and security than humans had ever known under Council oversight. In San Francisco, where Earth's government had established a welcome center for alien visitors, crowds gathered to watch the treaty signing on large screens. When Paul Williams signed Earth's name to the document, cheers erupted through the streets. Among the crowd, Jack Miller watched with satisfaction. After leading the negotiation team that crafted the treaty, he had chosen to retire from diplomatic service. President Green had offered him any position he wanted, but he had declined. His place in history was secure: the man who walked out of the Council and helped build something better. A young reporter noticed him in a crowd and approached. "Ambassador Miller, what does today mean for humanity's future?" Jack smiled. "It means we found our voice and used it. It means we'll never again let others determine our fate." At the Mars shipyards, Captain Laura Martinez prepared for the maiden voyage of Earth's new flagship, the EDS Unity. Unlike the warships built during the crisis, Unity was designed as a diplomatic vessel, but one protected by the most advanced defense systems humans had ever created. As she toured the ship with her senior officers, Laura summarized the feeling of many humans: "We never wanted to stand alone. We just refused to kneel." Now the galaxy understands that humanity makes a better friend than enemy, and that some principles are worth any price. The Unity's first mission would take representatives from 20 species to explore regions beyond Council-charted space, a symbolic journey into a new era of cooperation. As the galaxy adjusted to its new reality, one truth became universally acknowledged: underestimating humanity had been the Council's fatal mistake. The species they had dismissed as stubborn and primitive had reshaped the political landscape of the galaxy forever. That night, as celebrations continued across human space, President Green raised a toast in the Global Senate: "To all who doubted that humanity could stand alone, thank you for the motivation. The stars are now truly within our reach."